Are you beginning therapy? Is this your first time jumping in to this scary thing called therapy or counseling? If so, you're going to want to watch this video, because in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 things that people do, 3 mistakes that people make when starting therapy that sabotage it before it even begins. Welcome, I'm Dr. Leif Smith. I am a clinical and sports psychologist, and I work with some of the most successful people in the world to help them change their lives around, to change their lives for the better, help them make a dent in the universe, as Steve Jobs said. Today, I'm here and I want to talk about 3 mistakes that people make when starting therapy. You might be one of these people who's about to start therapy and you're not sure if it's going to work. You're not quite sure what this process is going to be like. You're unsure, you're anxious. Okay, so this is the perfect video for you, because I've been doing this for over 21 years, helping people. I've had in excess of 30,000 individual sessions with clients. And I can speak from experience, and I've had my own therapy too. I can speak from experience on what mistakes sabotage your therapy experience right from the start. And so I want to just get into that right now. Mistake number 1 is not being ready for therapy. That might sound strange, but you need to actually be ready. You need to be ready to jump in. You need to be ready to get the feedback that you don't want to hear. You need to be able to sit there and analyze your patterns, your dysfunctional ways of doing things that are causing issues for you in your life, in your relationships with other people. How do you know if you're ready? An easy way to tell if you're ready is you are in a lot of pain. When you feel enough pain, you will change something. That's how we are wired biologically. Things that hurt and things that hurt to great degrees, we will avoid. Starting small things like a hot stove. I've touched a hot stove once in my life. I remember being like 7 or 8 years old and seeing a stove and turning it on, and it turned orange because it was one of those old electric stoves. And I put my finger on it and I touched it and it hurt, and I got a huge blister on my finger. I have never touched a hot stove since that time because the pain was so great and the shock was so great to my little brain at that point that to this day I still hover over things when I'm wondering if they're too hot. Right? I don't touch it. I come close to touching it, but I don't. That's an example physically of how we are wired to avoid things that are painful, to try to fix it, right? So when you feel enough pain, from the relationships that you keep screwing up, or the people that you keep choosing that keep screwing up your relationships, when you feel enough pain from these patterns of self-sabotage, you're going to want to avoid it. You want to get away from it. And the way you get away from it is you go into therapy and you start facing it. So when you have enough pain in your life, you are ready. If it's not quite painful enough and you're still kind of unsure about this, but you'll try this thing called therapy out, you're not ready. Make sure you are ready and make sure you don't make this mistake. Mistake number 2 that people make that sabotages their own therapy right from the start is not having a good connection with their therapist. Therapists, good or bad, are a dime a dozen. You can get online and find 20 therapists in your city easily in about 2 minutes. Now, does that mean they're all good? No. Does that mean they're all competent? No. Does that mean you're going to vibe with all of them? Hell no. So, you need a good connection. The research shows that the better your relationship with the therapist, the more trust there is with your therapist, the better outcomes you're going to have in therapy. So, I tell my clients, if we have a good relationship, and I actively work on having a good relationship with my clients, built on trust, honesty, not taking ourselves too seriously, working hard, not having magical thinking that this is going to happen overnight, right? I talk to my clients about that right in the beginning because I want to have a good relationship. I want to trust each other. I want to trust that my client is ready. I want to trust that they are ready to hear what I'm going to tell them. And I want them to trust that I have their best interests in mind. They need to trust me too. They need to trust that I have their best interests in mind. They need to trust that I've done this before, that I've helped people with the same issue, and that I really do care about them. So that's my recommendation, right? You need a good relationship with your therapist, because if you don't have a good relationship, no techniques that they use, no fancy techniques that they learned in grad school, none of that stuff is going to work if you don't have a good relationship with your therapist. That being said, how do you come up with it? How do you figure out if you're going to vibe with your therapist? An easy way is interview 3 of them before choosing any therapist. Talk to your friends that are in therapy. Who do they recommend? Do they like their therapist? What do they like about their therapist? Is that therapist taking new clients? So interview them, beat the bushes a little bit, ask some questions, and when you're sitting down with the therapist, see how comfortable you feel. Does the therapist come across as weird? Do they come across as creepy? Does their office smell like mushrooms? I don't know. But you need to have a good vibe with your therapist. If you're not comfortable with them, trust will not develop. And if trust doesn't develop, the whole thing doesn't work. So, very important, don't make that mistake when you're going to go into counseling. My third and final thing I want to talk about in terms of the huge mistakes that people make when starting therapy is the idea of you've got to get your mind right. What does that mean? You've got to get your mindset where it needs to be to do the work that you need to do. What is that mindset? Well, first of all, you're going to have to grind your way through therapy. Therapy is painful. You're working through some long established behavioral patterns. You're learning some stuff about yourself that you don't like. It's like that moment when you get out of the shower before you get the towel on and you accidentally peek over and you see yourself in the mirror in all your naked glory, and you think, oh Lord, God, I have to go out like that today. Like, I guess you don't go out naked, but you put clothes on it, right? But nobody really likes how they look in there, unless you're a Kardashian, right? And then you just post it on Instagram, you get 1 million followers easily. So therapy is a lot like that. It's uncomfortable to find out that you're part of the problem. It's uncomfortable to find out that the decisions you're making are affecting other people's lives in adverse ways. Or that maybe part of the relationship is you. Part of that problem is you. So the mindset here is it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a grind. You're going to have to clean some of this stuff out, clean out the wound, so to speak. It's going to suck sometimes. It's not going to be happy and skipping down the hallway with your therapist while holding their hand. I tell my clients, sometimes you're not going to have the most fun with me. Occasionally, you're not going to like me. Now, my jokes, I think they're pretty funny, but some of them might not be. I don't know. But it's not always going to be laughing and joking around and having a good time. Sometimes it's going to be very sober, very somber, very difficult. You need to understand that. You also need to understand that therapy and any sort of self-development and working through and changing your patterns is going to take some time. Now, it doesn't need to take 8 years, but it's also not going to be done in 3 or 4 sessions. Very seldom do you make huge changes in that quick of a time period. So make sure you're getting your mindset right prior to starting. You need to understand that you have some work to do and your therapist has work to do also. And it's teamwork, and it's going to be arduous sometimes, and you're not always going to be happy, but it is totally worth it. So I'm Dr. Leif Smith. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope these 3 tips are going to help you avoid making these mistakes, because it can be a costly thing to do when you're constantly trying to find a new therapist. If you have questions or comments, leave them below. I'm happy to answer them. And I will see you in the next video.